What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another lesson. It's been a little bit. So, well, we're back. And today I thought I would talk about something that I don't think I've ever made a video about this topic, but unlearning stuff on guitar. We all have kind of like, through the years, maybe established bad habits and stuff like that, and then it comes to the point where we have to learn something else and kind of unlearn, basically, what we had practiced, and then you're just kind of like, I hate unlearning it because it's so hard to do. We're going to jump into this one, but like I said, I'll have tabs for a couple different examples for you down below if you want them. You can, of course, check out my free guitar course. It's actually going to relate pretty well with what we're talking about here today with one of these topics. And we're going to jump into it, man. Let's chit-chat more riff-raff, and let's go. Numero uno, we are going to talk about picking. Now, picking is a huge one. This is a very big thing that not only beginners face, but intermediate players and advanced players, doesn't really matter. You're probably going to run into some picking issues. Now, in the beginning, and especially I'm like reliving a lot of this stuff because my son is learning to play guitar, you want to either pick all down, or in my son's case, all up. And, you have to work on things like alternate picking and stuff like that. Now, if you spend a lot of time, this is where lessons can really help, or just looking for stuff online. But if you really establish that down pick, it's really hard to get used to alternate picking. And you basically have to like unlearn and fight that urge to pick everything down. And I'm going to give you a couple different examples here, because another thing I want to talk about is early on, if possible, start economy picking. I can't stress that enough. I wish that I would have known about it. I didn't even know what it was for the longest time. I think Rick Graham was the first person I ever saw doing economy picking, probably like 6 years ago or something like that. For all you alternate pickers out there, if you're trying to get into the alternate picking world, I'm going to give you one that changes strings a little bit, but it's just a really good descending idea. So we're going like this: 7, 5, 4 on the G, and then 7 on the D. Okay, and I cycle through that, and I start with a down. Okay, and you just sit there and cycle through that one a whole bunch. That would be out of your G major scale. And the next one that I'm going to give you is an economy picking lick. Now this one, the first economy picking thing I ever learned and figured out was an Eric Johnson thing. At the time, I didn't really know that I was economy picking. Like I said, the Rick Graham thing was the one that really made me realize, oh, this is like a whole other thing I need to practice. But the Eric Johnson descending fives. So that was kind of the first thing I ever learned that had a little bit of economy picking, which I just viewed it as like sweep picking, and they're kind of the same. It starts up here, and our picking is going to go down, up, down, because we basically repeat the first sequence. Once you have the first sequence down, which is going to go 15, 12 on the high E string, 15, 12 on the B, and then 14 on the G. That's one sequence of it. So down, up, down, down. Okay, now the next one starts on the B string, 15, 12, 14, 12 on the G, and then 14 on the D. Okay, now here's where that picking really comes in handy. So you go down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. It's always the same. Now the trick is you have to get to where those downs, it's not so much like two individual motions for those downs. It's one motion through two strings. So watch my hand, watch it real close. And I would practice that, and that's how he gets that real rolling sound. He does it a lot. So I would just sit there and practice that. And this really gets your hand kind of trained into that economy style of picking, because you're utilizing, because basically if you alternate picked it, you could, but then your picking changes with each sequence. The first one starts with a down, the next one starts with an up, and it just keeps alternating. Sorry. So if you want to do an alternate, you can, but like for me, it was always getting into that groove of that economy style. And I would just go through each pentatonic box and practice that. So there's two picking things for you. Next one, we're going to talk about being able to do those big stretches. So a lot of self-taught people tend to play, that I've found, who've taken lessons from me, with their thumb over the neck a lot. Now I use my thumb over the neck a lot for playing too. There's nothing wrong with it, but you want to be able to switch to thumb behind the neck and thumb over the neck. Both are very crucial, because if you do a scale, for example, or just a G major scale like I played earlier, a G major scale, 3-5-7, 3-5-7. What is this? 4-5-7, 4-5-7, 5-7-8, and 5-7-8. So there's your scale right there. But that stretch, that's a pretty big stretch, and if your thumb's over the neck, I would pretty much bet you can't do it. And you just have to really get into this mindset of remembering to drop your thumb. The lower you have your thumb, the more it's in the back of the neck, the wider you can actually stretch. Unless you have Paul Gilbert hands, you're gonna need to drop that. Like I said, I have large hands, but I still need to drop my thumb back there to reach that stuff. Now I also use my middle finger here to get that instead of my ring finger. I see a lot of people use their ring finger, and if that's really giving you trouble to make that stretch even with your ring finger, try using your middle. This helps a lot for me. Alright guys, and the final one, I'm just going to leave you off with a little bit of a tip for this one, and that is if you're practicing, especially if you're learning scales, practice over a backing track or something that, really lets you hear what the scale sounds like over actual music. Because a huge hurdle that people have is learning how to play the scale in a musical way. Like, how do I do more than just a scale? So I think the more we practice it, that you can really get into that musical side, because you don't want to just get like that robotic feel of just playing the scale. And the more you can just kind of play that scale over music, the easier it's going to be. So that's going to be it, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I will see you all rocking and rolling later. Peace out, homies. I'll see you later. Whoop.